As the prophet of esports, I rely on trustworthy and meaningful data every day. Data from our research partner, YouGov, offers the most complete view of esports fans and gamers in the world, providing context to who they are, what they think, the brands they buy, and things they do. YouGov's connected insights and research services inform strategy at every level. If you're a team, a brand, agency, or rights holder, you should be talking with YouGov. Their partners measure and maximize ROI and are telling compelling stories with data. Visit yougov.com/gaming-esports to learn more.
A little bit of a follow-up from last week. We spent an hour of the weekly news show last week talking about the Microsoft Activision Blizzard acquisition. Obviously, we dissected it from a million angles. And this week, this is partly a joke, but I think it's a really interesting sort of thing to tie this to from the last week conversation. And this was a headline that was from MSN or / they're pulling it from .esports, I think. And the headline here is Blizzard is working on a new survival game. And so I had teased, I had been teasing Activision Blizzard and joking on the podcast that, they haven't made a new game really in the last, 5 years at least, probably more like 10. And, whenever Overwatch came out, so 6 years ago, whatever it is. And now the acquisition happens and immediately we get news of a new game. So I'm curious what you guys think here. Is this, Phil Spencer putting his foot down and like, we got new games already, Blizzard's reinvented, new company, off to the races? Or is this just coincidence and timing? I'm curious where you guys are at on this and what you read from this, because it is an interesting announcement a week after the acquisition was announced. Jeff, start with you. You were smirking here. I know you have thoughts.
Oh, I was smirking because, obviously you're making a joke question, but I would like to think that it was Phil Spencer marched in and said, I don't even own you yet legally, but go make a new game. In 4 days, the Blizzard team said, oh my God, we've actually been waiting this whole time. Like we got something pretty cool we could show you. And he said, yes, go announce that. So maybe that's what happened, but probably not. It is interesting though, because this would have been big. We would have been talking about this anyway. In a different context, this, if the Microsoft acquisition ever happened, we would still be talking about this. And I think it would be fairly big news, way bigger than it is now, because I think as Activision Blizzard is sort of subsumed into this behemoth that is Microsoft, any one title just doesn't become as important anymore. But if we take away that acquisition, like this would have been very big news that Blizzard is making a new title, and it seems to be getting pretty interesting, like feedback. I know Jason Schreier said that even the people he talks to at Blizzard that are super negative and kind of like very dour about the whole situation have had really positive things to say about this game and the team that's building it. So, I mean, good for Blizzard. I think that, hopefully people stick around and actually see this at the finish line. Lindsay made a funny joke. I forget if it was in our Discord, which you should all join, or on Twitter, which you should go follow me at JeffCohen23. Go plug. Where she said,
"The juice. I'm gonna take a week off. Let Juice run the show. I mean, come on. This is professional. This is professional at this point."
So what Lindsay said was, I think she said, "When does this game come out? 2030, 2040, or 2050?" And I thought that was funny because it probably will be something like 2030. But yeah, those are my takes.
But let me ask a more specific question, which is, can we talk about the business decisions that they made here, specifically survival game, specifically PC and console, right? So no mention of mobile, and specifically new universe, like new IP. So not set in the Warcraft universe or StarCraft universe or any other Blizzard or not Overwatch universe, set in none of the existing universes. So survival game, new IP, and console and PC. What do you guys read into that? And do you have thoughts on those three key sort of business decisions here with this new game? Jimmy?
yeah, it just sounds like the shackles have been lifted, released, the creativity is flowing. There's more to come. It's nothing but clear skies ahead. We're all excited whenever Activision Blizzard makes an announcement, just because the IP and I think what that company's been able to accomplish has been so great. This is just like the best of everything, because it's new IP in particular, right? Because that's usually been the criticisms, like, hey, I don't want to play Diablo 4. Like, give me something that doesn't, give me something that's, I mean, at least me, I was
And
never
there's
a
a
big
lot of
fan of
people who
Diablo.
want to play Diablo 4. Right?
I'm gonna make a
They
bunch of
wanted to
enemies.
play
I'm not a
10
fan. I'm
years
not a
ago.
fan of Diablo. I'm
Yeah.
gonna make a bunch of enemies. But still, you know what I mean? Like, it just, okay. What's the sequel? What's the re-release? What's the, that became the question for a while. It
We could
wasn't, what are they
argue that
doing? Yeah.
these are risky choices, though, right? Like,
Yeah.
I could make the argument that a mobile game in an existing universe, in a genre that is, more mainstream, would have been a way safer bet to come out of the gate swinging with, right? Like,
Totally.
this feels quite like a risky choice, and I don't know how much of this you ascribe to Microsoft. Maybe zero, right? Maybe Jeff's right, and
Yeah.
they've had no impact yet. I would love to believe it was Phil Spencer who walked in day one, is like, okay, guys, we're making a game. What is it going to be, right?
Well, I think most likely, they have a backlog of content and ideas that they were just waiting to greenlight that for whatever reason wasn't getting pushed through, right? I agree with you. The other route is a lot safer, and I don't want to tease too much from the episode today with Bruce. He had such admiration for younger companies that took bigger swings because they were able to do that, right? That was the balance. When you get too large, is that you have that set identity, and when you're young, you can follow the popular culture shifts and trends and create them. So I think more likely this was something they maybe were already talking about working on that got rejected, or was just not pushed through yet, and Microsoft, or what have you, or just the lack of such strict oversight during the transition kind of greenlit the project. But it doesn't change the fact that I think it's going to be a really fun thing for them to explore, and a really fun thing for us to play, just knowing what they've been able to do with their existing IP through 500 iterations of one title. Like, awesome. Now let's get something fresh and different and not mobile and that's immersive. And it's right up my alley.
Lindsay, how do you feel about these business decisions, those three? And let me just add one more here. Survival games, really tough to have esports, right? Like, it's not esports kind of, and they've pushed Call of Duty. Obviously, they've pushed Overwatch. This new game, new IP coming out of the gate, likely with no esports component. I'm curious how you feel about that.
I don't know. I'm definitely more on the I'll believe it when I see it kind of train. I'm not sure that there's anything necessarily to be excited about. I feel like there's been a bunch of announcements around this, and like, oh, we're looking for people to hire and all of that. But until they actually put out a game, I don't know that I have any substantial comments to make on the decision, because this is just a story we've heard before. So I don't know. I don't have that many thoughts or feelings on this one, to be honest.
Is a survival game usually single player? Typically,
No.
like, there's not. Would there be a big live service component to this?
I mean, you saw like Valheim, I would call survival game. Rust, definitely survival game, has a huge, it's all online kind of component. Right?
Yeah, I assume
they
it'll be online. I don't know.
They
Is it
act
just
sort of like,
is it just a battle royale and they're just calling it a survival? Technically, you have to survive in a battle royale.
it's true. I think of survival games, good ones at least, sort of like mini MMOs, like not massively multiplayer, like moderately multiplayer online games, right? Like the social component, the online component, the multiplayer component is important, but I don't think there's a competitive component nearly as much, right? Like, it's hard to have sort of fair competition in a survival game. But Rust does get competitive. If you watch streamers playing Rust, it definitely does get competitive. Owen says, you surprised it's survival and not esports related? I'm not surprised. I'm curious if you guys are. I'm happy to give my thoughts on that. I think
what Blizzard has always done well is they're never necessarily first to market with a genre, but they're a little bit like the Apple of genres, where they're great at looking at a genre that's popular and creating a game that is better than others in that genre. And I think this is one of those scenarios where they've seen the massive sort of trend in survival games, horror games, and realize that they could build something pretty compelling in that genre. So I'm not surprised. I think with the failure of their esports leagues, there's not a lot of appetite to do anything in esports, and that's not really Blizzard's strength, right? Blizzard's strength is creating worlds, and I think the survival game is much better suited to that, in my opinion.
So, Paul, I have a question for you. Like, if Microsoft deal had not happened, had not been announced, would you be would this make you more positive on Activision Blizzard, or is it just not enough, too little? Like, what would be your take in a hypothetical world where Microsoft never happened?
I mean, this feels like, I mean, I have my doubts. Don't get me wrong. This announcement feels, I believe without Microsoft, they would have never announced this, actually, because I think they've learned the hard way that announcing things early and disappointing their fans has not done well for them, right? I think the Microsoft acquisition gives them a bit of air cover, right? The feeling is that Microsoft will help bring this to life. Microsoft won't let this slip 10 years, and if it does, we blame Microsoft. We don't blame Blizzard. So it's sort of some air cover to make this announcement. I think in a world where that transaction didn't happen, we probably would never have seen this announcement. And I think in that world, even if we had, I think I would have been a little bit more skeptical because, again, I mean, just look at the Activision side. Forget about the Blizzard side. Every studio is working on Call of Duty. They have no studios working on any other games. And I think Phil Spencer even commented on that in an article this week or in an interview where he said, we need to get them working on other games. I think he mentioned Spyro, like revisiting some like classic Activision IP, because right now every studio is working on Call of Duty. And so there's definitely, in my mind, the Microsoft effect here makes me more bullish on this. Maybe some of the old Blizzard comes back with the right air cover. But I think everyone at this point has been so badly burnt by Blizzard that no one's like the best announcement would have been like, hey, and by the way, at the end of January, there's going to be a playable demo, right? Like that's an announcement that has legs. This is like, hey, we're not dead yet. And thank you, Microsoft. Maybe you might help us release a new game. Freddie says nothing wrong with mobile, Jimmy. Freddie, I don't think any of us, think that it's just a safer play. I think that had they gone that route, console and PC is traditionally Blizzard's strength, though. So it's nice to see that. I think, Jeff, to your question, this is what's so encouraging for me. This feels like more classic Blizzard, right? PC and console, new world. I think that is incredibly brave because I think the obvious play would have been, let's do an extension of an existing universe, right? Like do a survival game set in Warcraft universe or something. So this is bold, I think. And that's the Blizzard I think we all want to see come back. So
I liked that it was new IP and a chance to flex some creativity. I mean, that's what Blizzard's best known for. So I was excited by that portion of the announcement. But then when it was kind of just a bunch of job openings and like hey, we just got bought by Microsoft, like, let's try to get back to who we are. I was like, this could take a long time. And I don't know that there's anything to be excited about right now, although it is cool to see them get back to their roots a little bit.